What was the motive? So main motive was maligning the character of Raja Martand the Hindu kings and other Hindu kings of Travancore, because this was the only Hindu kingdom other than Nepal which never went under the Muslim rule. It remained independent until it was threatened by Tipu Sultan, who took a vote to finish this kingdom and convert it. So at that time, they took the help of the British to protect them, and the British East India Company had an army which helped them, and this Peshwas also helped them, and finally they could defeat the Tipu Sultan, malign Hindu religion, and create a grudge in the minds of downtrodden that they were exploited, and above all, a huge wealth of the Padmanabh Swami temple. This is also one of the motives, but hidden motives. Today I'm going to talk on the breast tax. It has been in news, in media, and in many things, in many places. It has become a truth by this time, by its repeated mention everywhere, YouTube blogs, etc. They claim that its name was Moolakaram, and a movie was made recently. You can see stills from the movie how somebody is torturing a woman who is wearing a breast cloth. Another movie comes in Hindi, Stan Tax, and it also adds Dalit Adivasi word in it. And then comes another movie, Stan Tax, Dalit Adivasi, and Pichra also is added into it. So it is increasing in geometrical progression, and the ultimate villain in these films is the Hindu priest. The story was popularized by a cartoon about a mythical lady Nangeli who revolted against this inhuman tax and cut her breasts and died of bleeding. So it was actually a fiction, but it soon acquired the status of a truth, and books got written on this. This book tells that this tax existed into the 20th century also, and statues and museums and shrines for this lady, mythical Lady Nangeli, have been promoted by various progressive. Progressive means communist. Similarly, everybody has started writing on this topic. There are thousands of blogs and articles and newspapers, so I would discuss them all. But this particular one I have just brought on the screen, it now says non-dominant caste woman. So solely imposed on non-dominant caste, which continued until 1924. So now the thing is expanding. And this is a museum to commemorate that mythical lady. And this gentleman is saying that it was abolished in 1803. We just saw somebody writing 1924. So actually, it is free for all. Anybody can write anything on this topic. Okay, so this is the first thing to strike that it is a bit fake type of a story. Now, this photograph has been used by uh, hundreds, if not thousands, of such blogs and tweets, and also by the CBSE book. And you can see this picture. Now, I searched it on Google Chrome and I found actually thousands. On ordinary Google, you get thousands of results, but on Chrome, I got 9 results, all of them telling one story: Chanar revolt using cloth as a tool of repression, sex tax, Nadar caste. Somebody says CBSC removes Nadar women's struggle for the right of cover, etc., etc. Nadar caste, Indian communities. It's the same photograph. Now, only 2 of them did not mention this caste thing or anything. So I went into them. This is also interesting that many tweets, this photo, blue background, is the same photo, and it was used in the CBSC book by the name Chanar Revolt. My research found that it was actually a photograph taken in 1930 and it was recently put for auction. Top to enlarge here, because of this, its origin is hidden. So I will clarify it. This photo, it is on the website, Rhodias of Ceylon. So who are the Rhodias? This photo actually belonged to the Rhodias of Ceylon and fraudulently shown as the Nadar woman who could not wear upper garment because of they could not pay the breast tax. Now I got a blog which also the story Rodi, the spelling has changed, Sri Lanka's Untouchables, and an article by Asif Hussain, same photograph, and it shows that these are the untouchables of Sri Lanka. So it was a photograph from a different country for a different context, but it was used by these activists to malign the Hindus of Travancore, particularly the Hindu king of Travancore. There were many such photos circulating with such blogs, and I examined them all, but I won't show them all to you. I'll just show 1 or 2. This is a blog. One woman has started the fight against this undignified treatment. In 1900th century, the king of Travancore introduced the payment of breast tax, and it was paid by the lower caste woman, Mulakaram. It says with double K. And when I searched it by reverse search, I found similar articles, Dalit Voice, etc., on 3 websites. I further just went on searching it, and I found that its original, without the black markings on the chest, was from what is called ethnographic report of about 1900, and Mr. Fawcett had written it. It is the photograph of Tia or Tian's caste from Malabar, which was a region north of Travancore. So this photo does not belong to Travancore estate, and it does not belong to the Nadar caste also, but it is a Tia, and you see I have marked by red. It is a middle class of the West Coast. So not even Dalit. So, I mean, they picked up pictures, even recent pictures in which upper part of the body was naked, and they used it as evidence that there was a particular tax levied by the Travancore state, Travancore king, who was very wicked. Of course, it means that the king must have been very wicked. So Tian, middle class of West Coast, take service as domestics. They're not untouchables, and follow trades and professions and anything. I started searching contents on this matter, and I found that about the Nadar. About the Nadar, I came to know that these people were entirely engaged in the cultivation of toddy, and palm trees, climbers, and women also were engaged in this. And there are thousands and thousands of palm trees in that area. They manufactured gur or jaggery out of that juice. And of course, most of these palm trees belonged to the king. Pay some, they paid some token tax for it that was called talakaram, that is palm tax. Other than this, and that also for only those who climbed the palm trees and used as a business, and they became very rich because of this business actually. So now I will go to the next slide. So story so far, the story is circulating in the social media, newspapers, blogs, and even BBC, and some movies and web series that the Hindu king Martand imposed a breast tax on women of Nadar, Dalit, lower castes of the Hindus. And these women could not cover their breasts unless they paid a certain tax. This tax was named by these propagandists as the breast tax, and Malayalam word has been given as the Mulakaram. Upper caste Hindus were wicked and enjoyed the sight of seeing the naked upper part of the lower caste women, they claimed. Similar to this, similar to that, the Maoist tax too was imposed, and fake photos and fake films were used to promote such stories. So, who are the promoters of this story? Now you can see that DYFI is taking a procession to condemn or agitate against the exploitation of Nangeli, the mythical lady who was born allegedly 150 or 200 years back. This is her statue. DYFI is an international communist outfit. So you can see this slide in which you can find that Pakistan, China, and USA, the deep state of USA, they are all entangled in a very unholy alliance. And USA is funding some missionaries through the fringe Christian elements, not all, most of the Christians abhor such ideas, but USA is using some of them to destabilize India and divide India. And Pakistan is supporting jihadist element, but USA ultimately supports all of them. Oldest reference to this tax. I searched hundreds, if not thousands, of books and journals whether I could find it out. So the oldest reference occurs in a book by R.N. Yesudas, who was a Protestant missionary, and the book was written in 1975. Before that, there is no mention of this tax, no record, no official record, nowhere. The book was titled A People's Revolt in Travancore. And he not only mentions the breast tax, but you can see the tax was for hair growth, and breast of the women, and also everything, sickle. The tax was levied on each hut like that. And these taxes, he claims, were levied only from the poorer, lower class people, and upper classes did not have to pay any tax. Well, I tried to search many Malayalam dictionaries and also Google Translate. And this particular word, Mulakaram, means breastfeeding, although this meaning has been lost by this time. Not modern Malayalam speaking people know it. Another meaning is, if I remove the last M, still it means breastfeeding. And a third meaning, if I put a dot below the L, then it becomes bamboo shoots. Mulakaram. Mulakara, bamboo shoots. Anyway, what was the motive? So main motive was maligning the character of Raja Martand the Hindu kings and other Hindu kings of Travancore, because this was the only Hindu kingdom other than Nepal which never went under the Muslim rule. It remained independent until it was threatened by Tipu Sultan, who took a vote to finish this kingdom and convert it. So at that time, they took the help of the British to protect them, and the British East India Company had an army which helped them, and this Peshwas also helped them, and finally they could defeat the Tipu Sultan. Malign Hindu religion and create a grudge in the minds of downtrodden that they were exploited, and above all, a huge wealth of the Padmanabh Swami temple. This is also one of the motives, but hidden motives. So I got across this Facebook blog, and last view you can see a brutal and inhuman tax regime and the hidden assets of Kerala's Padmanabh Swami temple. It claims that the huge assets of this temple have been accumulated by taxing the lowest castes of the Hindus and inhuman taxes like tax on breast, tax on sickle, type of things, tax on moustache, tax on water, blacksmith, washermen, everybody were taxed. That is, it is again, these all are imaginary stories and they don't produce any reference or citation about any government order or anything, any record, anything. So this temple, this is a Forbes uh, website information. It says that there is $1 trillion hidden treasure chamber inside the Sri Padmanabh temple. And now everybody is eyeing on that wealth. They're envious of this wealth. As I told you earlier, that this was the only place, southern Kerala, Travancore kingdom, which never went under the Muslim rule. Even Aurangzeb could not win it. And it represents 1% of India's population. And this temple has existed there since at least 1005 years back. So we can assume that there were 100 such temples or surplus wealth like this. And if we include those parts like Khorasan and Pakistan, Afghanistan, and Bangladesh, which are now Muslim, so there would have been an accumulation of 150 trillion USD. These areas would not have been plundered and the money drained to Central Asia, Iran, and Turkey by those invaders, foreign invaders, last of whom such invaders was Ahmad Shah Abdali. So there is a fake narrative industry. And Jonathan Mark Kenner is stated in this context, in the context of the Aryan invasion theory. He refutes the Aryan invasion theory. So he stated in an article that a factoid is a speculation or guess that has been repeated so often that it is eventually taken for hard fact. So I had a revelation, just like drashtas of the Vedas, and I was able to reveal three laws. So Deville's third law is what Mark Kenner has quoted, but Deville's first law is anything depicting Hinduism or India in bad color must be true. And Deville's second law is anything speaking good about Hindus or India must be untrue. This is the Kenner's article. And such fake history creation is rampant today. We exposed one such claim that Harappans ate beef, and scholars, big scholars are engaged in this business. So what was the root cause? There was, of course, there may be something, But we should know the history, how today we accept such photos as obscene and accept that, okay, probably a tax was levied, that is why our atrocity was done, and these women were banned from wearing a blouse, etc. We can believe. This is because of colonization of Hindu culture, and our minds have been colonized by this time completely. Nobody is uncolonized Hindu today. So in North India, it was Arab, Turk, Persian, Muslim invasion, and Christian and British came in the end. And in South India, Arab, Islamic, and Christian, European, but their waves of Christians were Syrian Christians, Portuguese, French, Dutch, and the British came in the end. So what it led to? It led to sexual objectification of woman's body. And in pre-colonization India, beauty was for aesthetics. That is for eyes, mind, and soul, not for lust or sex. And here I would like to tell you that obscenity lies in the minds of the beholder, and it is true for all cultures and all times. So Indians were not that much wicked in pre-colonization era, and women could remain exposed in this hot, humid country. And there, El Basham writes that there is no evidence that before the um, Muslim conquest of India, women wore upper garments normally unless it was a cold day. And this is true about Indus Valley civilization also, where you can see women who were revered like goddesses, and larger the size of the breast, they were considered the greater mother. So all mother deities, even in West Asia, which were influenced by Indian culture, they have been depicted with very large breasts, and they felt proud to show it as great mothers. So this reminded the Hindus of the divinity of motherhood rather than anything else. And you can see in the art, all art, this is what El Basham uh, also noted, that there is no garment. Now we come to a relatively later period, Queen of Quilon. There is a painting available for her, Hindu Kingdom of Quilon or Kollam. In 1662, Dutch visitor Nieuwhof came there, and he met the queen, and he writes that the upper part of the body appearing for the most part naked, with a piece of calico, that is a cotton cloth, hanging carelessly round her shoulders. So this was not at all considered bad or obscene, but it was a normal thing. You see the Raja Krishna Dev Rai with her two queens, and they are having something like a transparent shawl over their shoulders, nothing more than that. Other pre-colonization Hindu culture was present in a remote island of Bali in Indonesia. And up to 1950, there was no colonization of this population. And they just did not like to cover the breasts, because if they have got something aesthetic beauty, what is the need for exposing it? So it was very normal. Today, photos are available from those days. And even on roads or marketplaces, they just did not cover it. But in India also, this was very universal. It was not of only a particular caste practice, but you can see an embroidery woman lady wearing a lot of jewelry, but not wearing a blouse. This is an embroidery bride with her relative or family member, probably sister, and she's just going through the rituals. And Nair girls' teens have been also depicted. At the most, they would keep something like a transparent dupatta over one of their shoulders. This is a Nair caste man and woman from 1860, and it is in the Smithsonian Archives, Maryland photo. The same attitude existed, not that much, but to some extent in the interiors of Bihar and Bengal, but not in the urban areas. The interiors were the places which were not penetrated by any colonization. And women abhorred stitched cloth or cut cloth. In one of the books by an author, he says that cut cloth was considered impure. And in Bihar, I heard in my childhood that stitched cloths, which also means a cut cloth, was considered bad, impure, and therefore they could not be worn on sacred occasions by even male or female, anybody. So you can see Mahatma Gandhi in Bengal meeting a lady, a painting of a Bengali widow from the 19th century. You can see two photos. One is colonized urban, another is uncolonized. Here also you see two Bengali women. This is Rabindranath Tagore's Bhabi, long sleeves, and this lady is also, these are urban colonized, whereas this is a lady who is rural uncolonized. Now, what is the theme that when the Christians came to India, those who did not wore blouse or upper garment were considered inferior, while those who wore it were considered superior because breast has been demonized, and not even breast, but breastfeeding as symbol of obscenity and sex. And so you can see this painting is still existing in Cartesian St. Barbara altar piece in museum, located in Wikimedia Commons. A girl who is just entering into puberty, her breasts are being cut by the clergy in a church so that they do not grow up, they do not become large. And this is something like sanskar. But these things have been kept hidden from others, whereas people like Yeshudas may talk a lot about imagined things. Syrian Christians who have been here for more than 1,000 years and very much Indianized in their attitude, very patriotic people, they were wearing what is called kupayam. It was a kurta or kameez or shirt, and they were living side by side with the Hindus who would not wear anything as a garment, women, I mean. So there was complete peace and harmony between them. They just considered it another culture. And now Kupayam has taken this form, and it has become a modern shirt or t-shirt. So Muslim women of Kerala also covered their bodies, whole bodies, and also took a small piece of cloth, not like hijab, but some to put on their head. And Cochin Jews, this is their women. So this custom was a foreign custom, and it today represents our colonization by Jews, Muslims, and Christians at mental level. So now we should go for the real story on records. That is, you find in this blog that converted to Christianity, another caste converted to Christianity in large numbers at that time. And they started agitating. So I go into this book by Pruthi. It is written by scholars, every chapter is by a scholar. Indian caste system. And this page we find that Christians started demanding holidays on Sundays. Earlier, there was no such system, but they started demanding holidays and Sundays because they had to go for prayer. And the women, Nada women who had converted to Christianity, they were uh, wanting to wear upper cloth as Christianity advocated, and they started wearing, but at the same time, they started taunting their Hindu neighbors that they were naked and they were obscene and they did not have morality. So this caused some conflict between them, but the government, that is King of Travancore, made a proclamation that Kupayam, which was worn by the Syrian Christians, could be worn by the newly converted Christian women also. Kupayam, I just showed you the examples. This is, I was able to access the order which is in the archives, and it says that those women who have converted to Christianity and want to cover their bodies like the Christians do shall be able to cover upper part of their bodies by wearing kupayam, as the Syrian Christian women had been doing from long, from long before. In addition, the Christians shall be exempt from working on the Sundays. So actually, this order dated 1829 did not impose any tax or breast tax, but just allowed the converted women to Nadar women to wear type of dress. This is the truth. I could get some information on the matter, Clothing, a Global History by Robert Ross, and it also says the same story, but it says that the London Missionary Society entered India in 1806 and started converting. Uh, this was a female-dominated society, all Kerala, and generally inheritance was from mother to daughter. So it was the ladies who mattered actually, and they started converting them. King did not prevent this conversion, and they received permission to cover their torso with long-sleeved blouses as cotton, as a Syrian Christian, or they invented a cloth which was prevalent in London poor people, that was form of jacket which could be worn in church and elsewhere. But and King also supported it, that yes, if when they convert, they can dress like Christians, no problem. But these women, particularly, not men, they started taunting the Hindu females, and there was some rift on this. And so they were not social revolutionaries, those who converted. When individuals still lower than them in status joined a congregation, they abandoned it. So these Nadar were actually middle class. And in the church, if any scheduled caste, or Dalit, I should say, entered, converted to Christianity, they just left the church because they thought they would get defiled. The dress designed by the missionaries was thought of as equivalent to the badge of an English poorhouse. So this was also hated by these neo-Christian women, and they wanted to dress like the wives of the British ICS officers, and then they would count more. Anyway, so this was some quarrels which why women give so much importance. And while searching this topic, I came across a sentence which is very enlightening. A man wearing a suit. No, this is not that sentence. I mean, a man wearing a suit and tie in a colonial situation. So they wanted to dress as if a man those days, a poor man or an average man, would wear a suit and a tie. And this is the mantra: women behave in the same way and they judge husbands and lovers largely according to the amounts of money they are given by them to spend on the clothes. But unfortunately, the secret of keeping women happy, I learned in the old age. So now I am coming to the character of the queen and king and the dynasty. This was the most benevolent kingdom in India. And kings and queens of Travancore were such people who did a lot of social service work. And in 1817, the then queen announced that all the people of the state, irrespective of birth or origin, will be provided full funding by the state for whatever education they wanted to get. This was called Magna Carta of Education, and its 200 years was celebrated in Delhi recently, which was attended by the current surviving queen. And I have marked in red, this festival was not celebrated in Kerala. So there was a lack of interest regarding the anniversary in Kerala. Promotion of education, they opened a large number of several thousand schools of both systems, Indian system as well as modern type schools. And the state spent 25% of its income on education. Girls' English schools were also opened. Libraries, nursing schools, etc. were opened. Granthalaya was opened to preserve the ancient Sanskrit texts. Then the same kingdom, people of same dynasty, issued a Magna Carta of farmers. This was again the first of such kind over time. So this declaration transferred the land ownership rights to the tillers in 1865, first of its kind in India. Then there was, although in Hinduism, there is no prohibition of entry into temple. And actually those days, every caste groups had their own temples maintained by them locally. There is evidence, I'm not showing them because it will become too long. But at the end of the 19th century, because of provocations by the foreign elements, one person taunting others claiming some reservation benefits, others doing something. These things were created in India, particularly in South India. So some people also prevented some other castes from entering their own temples. The king heard of it, and he outlawed any attempt to prevent the so-called low caste people or Avarnas from entering any Hindu temple in the princely state of Travancore in 1936, 12 November, Temple Entry Proclamation. So such was the greatness of that kingdom. And the most important person of this dynasty, Martand Varma, about 750, he declared that he was not the king and his heirs would not be the king, but they will be the servants of the Padmanabh Swami and serve the country as a servant. So thus we can say that there was no breast tax anywhere in India or in the world, and it is an imagination of the most pervert mind of the world. The story has been promoted by vested interests and foreign funding cannot be ruled out. It can be demonstrated that fake photographs, that is those belonging to other country or kingdom or other people from other caste, have been claimed to be of the Dalits from the state of Travancore. And keeping upper part of body naked, uncovered, was the custom in pre-colonization India and was present or followed by all castes and all strata, including even the queens. And the personal character of the kings and queens of the state was extremely sublime and kind and pious. And that does not match the stories put forward by these Break India elements. Thanks.
My question is related to this, where they try to always demonize India as, the rape country, the rape culture. And in relation to that, with the breast tax, I was thinking that you showed that women kept their bodies bare in the top. Is there also evidence to show that that happened where women didn't have to fear about other people looking at them in the wrong way or raping and all that? Does it go with that, the evidence?
Yes, I mean, I showed you one lady with a bare chest walking on the road. If this situation happens in India today, there are criminals and wicked-minded people who would molest her at least and taunt her, or maybe some pull her in their car. These things did not occur. That's why they were living so freely. Even in my own village up to 60s, women used to take bath in ponds or near the wells with minimum cloth. And I have seen up to the age of 10 years. So those days, people, men particularly, were of very pious, sacred mind, and they looked at breast as a sign of motherhood. They would not touch even the breast of their wives in up to 60s or earlier time. So I think this whole wicked mentality has occurred because of penetration of colonization, which is quite recent. We talk of colonization, but basic colonization has occurred quite recently. And the original colonization was restricted to the dress code only because uh, people try to mimic the dress and housing types of the superior, the top class people. So they were mimicking it. The Bengalis, I showed you how they dressed. But there was no wickedness in the men that would cause rape or molestation or things like that. We can say that 1% of such people might have been there, but they would be outcast by their society. Society was very powerful at that time, and people did not need to go to the courts. They would just ban him. Hukka pani band. So nobody will dine with him, nobody will sit with him, and nobody will allow such person to come near their homes. So these things did not happen actually. And this
Oh,
should not be considered. This was not at all considered. I have seen in one book that they were inviting for sex. This was never implied, but they were normal mothers, sisters, brothers, and daughters living in home like that, which we cannot imagine to happen today. So this is the colonization which has taken place inside our minds. Thank you.
So the things that you have said now, there's evidence for it. I'm guessing in all previously what people have written about our lives in the history, there's evidence about all this that you have mentioned.
Yes, there is evidence, of course. Of
Sure.
course.
I'm just asking for people who always keep attacking and questioning us. But thank you for answering. Thank you.
all right. So next up is Dhruvji. Would you like to ask your question yourself? Because I can see you have dropped a question in the chat box. Okay, I assume there might be some mic-related issues. So I'll put forth his question. He's asking, why is it like most of the Hindus easily believe on these kinds of stories or narratives?
So actually, I have touched this topic, but very briefly in few seconds in my speech. We believe because we have become colonized. And now we consider covering our dress or covering, particularly for the women, covering their bodies as much as possible as a sign of modesty. So when we see women in shorts, which is so common in Delhi, then we do not feel happy. We feel that something wrong against Indian culture is happening. So what we believe today as Indian culture is not at all ancient Indian culture. It is a colonized culture, which we have adopted and currently we are practicing. And if we see that, okay, somebody shows us some pictures that see these women are not wearing blouse, then we feel that, okay, yes, why they were not wearing? There must be some restriction imposed on them. And we assume and we believe that, okay, yes, there might be something because why they are not wearing. So this is basically pollution of our mind rather than we need to correct ourselves, particularly our conservative population, peoples, leaders, that dress, covering of dress or living like anything is not essence of Hinduism. Essence of Hinduism is keeping the minds pure. And if our minds are pure, we would not see any obscenity in any type of cloth, any type of dress, just like a child does not see any obscenity, 5-year-old child. Just need to become innocent again.
My experience is that actually I've read and I've actually visited and lived in Bali for about 3-4 months. That was about 12 years ago, and that culture of women not wearing anything on top was pre-existent, and the culture of not wearing anything on top was pre-existent. And even on the mainland Java, where Hindu kingdoms were prominent in Hindu civilization, Hindu-Buddhist civilization flourished before Islam, they had the same culture. And in Bali, it was practiced till the Dutch came, and I think they were forced to cover up. But now and then you see elderly ladies who might be in their 70s, 80s, roaming like that in the hot weather, because Bali is basically on the equator. And I'm actually from a country, as you can see my username, I'm from the Republic of Fiji in South Pacific. So the indigenous people were also like that before Christianity came in and converted them. But I would like to actually bring you to attention this short film. I don't know if you've seen this in your research. It's on YouTube. It's Mulakaram, the Breast Tax, full short film by Yogesh V. Pagri V. Markande.
Pagare, yes. I have
Yes.
referred to it in the very beginning. First slide was from that.
Yes, but I've seen, like, for example, comments saying that this fellow, he's saying that his grandmother used to refer to stories like that, and they used to give clothing. How could this be? It could be pre-Islamic or pre-British or Dutch influence.
You mean the keeping upper part of body naked?
No. I mean, this person, for example, I'm trying to locate.
Pagare. His name is Pagare, and
Oh
he
yes,
has.
no, yes. But just someone commented on his video. So he says, quote him, "My grandmother protested against Molkaram and gave clothes to lower caste women
Yes.
to cover breast due."
I tell you.
My grand.
I tell you something about it. Your question is very valid that some people claim that sister Nangeli had no children, but her sister's great grandchildren are there, like that. And they have seen blah, blah, many stories you will hear. Now we should check the credibility of these people, whoever claims it, such things. It is a fine art to create fake stories. It is a very high quality fine art. And very people at a good stature, high stature are engaged in creating fake stories. So if somebody is saying that my mother was, or grandmother was doing this and that, we cannot trust them because he needs to present some documentary evidence. We should just assume them to be Hindu phobic. Being a Hindu does not mean that he is not Hindu phobic. Recently, somebody has been arrested for his Hindu phobic comment. He is a Hindu. So, Hindu phobics are very clever at creating, very wise, very ingenious in creating fake stories, and to make it reliable, they would refer it to their chacha or dada or pardada and like that. I have another article written on this, how they create fake stories. If Madam gives me chance, I will talk about creating the art of creating fake stories. Yes, I think I have answered your query. One thing I would like to add that telling a lie is not illegal in India or anywhere in the world. If telling a lie in the court under oath is illegal, but in normal life, everybody can tell a lie. Okay, and they cannot be punished for that.
I think what Sir is saying, it's interesting because many people do not know and always criticize, this Hindu or India phobic. They have this mentality, India is the rape capital of the world, etc., etc. But if you compare, just to population-wise and statistics ratio, etc., you've got countries like PNG, Papua New Guinea, that's in the Pacific and borders with Indonesia. They have Melanesian population there. There's a lot of violence and female-related crime committed. And similarly in Fiji, we probably might, if you adjust it to population, we definitely might outrank India in terms of sexual violence against women, even though we just barely have a population of 1 million. That's it.
Okay, yeah, I will just take 1 minute. That suppose in UK, the amount of rape taking place every day is X, and India has a population 20 times that. So India has a right to have similar crimes 20x, 20 times more than that. People do not realize it. They will say that 100 rape occurred in a day in India, while only 30 rapes occurred in UK, and only 50 rapes occurred in USA. So India is bad. You have to see the huge population. Thank you.
Sir, my question was kind of like a follow-up to the previous gentleman's question. Whatever lifestyle and practices we had before, were they always documented? And if they weren't documented, there might be things happening. If they're anecdotal, then how do we prove that, yes, it happened, but there's no documentation? That doesn't prove that it didn't happen, right?
About the breast tax, you mean?
Yes, about the breast tax, but in general as well, about how our lifestyle and practices were.
Yeah, about the taxes are generally, and well, not generally, but always documented in revenue records. So best proof will be in the revenue records or any government act proclamations. Unfortunately, because the kingdom has survived till now, I mean the dynasty, and all the records have been well preserved, land revenue record, every record. So if anybody is interested to find out about this Mulakaram or breast tax, they should be able to locate it if it existed, or any other tax like hair tax, mustache tax, etc., etc. Second, so it is a fake, because otherwise these researchers, particularly Yesu Das, would have referred to them, but he hasn't. Nobody has done so far. not even British authors of those days. Only documentation is that the king allowed the new Christian women to wear the same type of shirts as others, although the Hindus, all classes of Hindus were not wearing anything on the upper part of the garment, and there was some taunting by the Christianized ladies that you are naked, and there were quarrels between women, and these things have been documented, but this tax hasn't been documented at all. Now, coming to our pre-colonization life, there is a lot of description in the Jatak Kathas and Buddhist texts and paintings and art. Many of the books, almost all of the books in the libraries were burned when Muhammad Ghori and others started burning Indian books. So we cannot get all the details, but many of the books survived outside India. In Sri Lanka, Tibet, Indian books, in China, and now we have been able to recover many of them over the last 150 years. So those books, if we read them, we find the description of the dress also, if the book is something like a novel. And we don't find any much description. At the most, if there was a stylish thing, they would wear a kanchuki at the most. And that was formal and stylish, just for beautification, shringar, rather than anything else. But normal life was the upper part there.
Namaste. This is not a
Namaste.
question. This is just a funny remark. When I was studying in doing my graduation in America, they used to say in my medical field, they say if you did not do it, you did. If you did not document it, you did not do it. What was not documented was not done. Does it mean, from the more I hear about the stories, like Dr. Savas just said, I feel just because somebody has documented it, does it mean it was done also?
You mean the breast tax?
No, yes, things like breast tax. People can
Breast
just pull it out of
tax,
their
yeah, has been first
wazoo and write it.
recently
Just
by
because it is
Yeshudas.
written, there should be things that it has been done.
Yeah, I
Very
get your
quickly.
point. I get your point. Like if we don't document that I have taken a blood pressure, when a case litigation comes, it will be understood that I have not taken the blood pressure. And that is true for medical litigations and audits. And that is what I say, that this documentation of Mulakaram or breast tax is not there at all. So revenues, even today, when I have to search, I tell you honestly about my own land, that I give some money to the clerk, and he's able to trace records of my land for last 200 years, and the taxes paid. So they all are existing in our offices, in archives, and now they are being computerized and they're put on websites. So this is just a fake claim, and which has no basis, and it is difficult to contradict a fake claim, very difficult. That is why I investigated the fake character of evidence like photographs presented by them. One who can present a fake photo can also present a fake story.
Poonamji, do you have anything to add to that?
You know, that is what I said. Like, just like we say, if you did not write it, you did not do it. Just because I wrote it, does it really tell that I have done it? Who stops me from just not doing it and just writing it?
Yeah.
And there is no evidence.
Uh.
You're not going to ask who was witnessing when we document anything, not just the medical, anything. We don't
Yeah.
have a witness sign it.
True, true. Absolutely correct.
Like in Hindi, we say, "Koi bhi kuch bhi."
हाँ कोई
बोल
कुछ भी
देंगे.
बोल दे, anybody can speak anything against Hinduism or India. That is what a devil's law. And I have devised, I mean, I got some revelation, divine revelation, and I found that there are three devil's laws, like three Newton's laws. So anybody can speak against Hindus or India's character or anything, and that has to be accepted as true or fact without evidence.
Hello, sir. I would like to ask this question. See, I'm a history student. I've done my master's in 2019, and we had seen this kind of narratives pushed by Marxist historians and subaltern historians, mostly Ambedkarite. And they tried to portray that the Hindus had done such heinous acts, whereas they could not provide any kind of references or any empirical evidences or historical. And this narrative has been used to brainwash the young students who come into colleges in humanity this faculties, and more like I studied from Mumbai University, where the intensity of this narratives were not very high, but universities like JNU, Jadavpur University, these narratives are being pushed very blatantly and in a very hypocritically manner. Matlab, you don't allow people to counter also on these things. So, sir, I would like to know why the Marxist and subaltern are pushing this false narrative, which is breaking the Indian society without any references or without any evidences. Thank you, sir.
This is their strategy. This is their art of war. Strategy means art of war. And in the art of war, creating fake narratives and convincing people about the truth. These are very important. And these strategies were followed by Varshkar Yudo, was a minister of Bimbisar, Ajatashatru. And these are followed by Chanakya has also advocated. So they are just doing that. And there is a book by Sun Tzu, The Art of War. So that book also tells that you should spread false narratives, and how to spread the false narrative. It is a very, very fine art, very high quality art, and they do it, and it should appear. I tell you one thing at this point that will clarify you the whole thing. Recently, I saw a blog on breast tax, and this blog said that this was imposed by the British on the Dalits of Kerala. And immediately, and this was supplied in the form of WhatsApp message by a decoy Rashtravadi Hindu in some Hinduvadi group. Now what happened? They just started spreading it because Rashtravadi Hindus consider everything which is against the British as true. And because this mentioned that it was imposed by the British, so they all started circulating it, and it soon spread to everybody. So this is called surrogate circulation. Now, one thing was established by this method, that there was a breast tax, and everybody accepted it, even the Rashtravadi Hindus, and they learned later that they are claiming that this was levied by the king of Travancore, the worldly Hindu king who was never defeated by any foreign power, and to malign them. So this piece comes in the end. So this is the modus operandi. You have to just add a few things that they were doing it under the British pressure, and then people will believe it. You have to add something, spice. make it tasty to them.
Sir, like organizations like BAMSEF and Kabir Kala Manch and other ASI and All India Student Federation, and this all are pushing this narrative very blatantly. Like there are professors like Deepak Mandal. Then there is one recently Professor Ratan Lal who has been arrested. Then again, like scholars like Suraj Yengde, Dalit, so-called Dalit scholars, they are continuously propagating this false narrative without any evidences in this, and this is causing a lot of like in students and all, this is causing a lot of concern, because like in colleges and all, young students don't read all this stuffs, but they get influenced by this ideology. So I feel this is more of an subversion for our Indian society.
Yes, it is. I just felt very, very disturbed by this trend, and that is why I spent almost 2 months' time researching it. And otherwise, I did not need to research it. And I approached Sangam Talks that I want to deliver a lecture on this. I have researched it, and they allowed me. I'm grateful to them. Now, our side or neutral side, I won't call it a Hindu side, but you should call it the truthist side, should be promoting this narrative, this truth, which I have revealed in this, and just spread it by social media and show them that they have used fake data, fake photographs. Even CBSE book has used that fake photograph from Sri Lanka, Sri Lankan Dalit caste, to show that they were in Travancore. All those things are actually, we can sue them, but if we don't have money, we can't sue them. So at least we can promote this today's video, and that should be able to neutralize their efforts. A counter effort to a bad effort is the only way to neutralize it. Thank you.